Hello, everyone, and welcome to Azam Shar Weekly. I'm starting a new series of building a vegetable gardening application. So this will be number of different episodes or number of different videos. We will work towards building a complete vegetable gardening app where people can see a list of garden. They can go ahead and add the vegetable to their garden saved in a core data database. They can take a picture of their own garden or of their own vegetable and write notes about their vegetables. And maybe we will go even further, creating extensions for our vegetable gardening app, maybe an Apple Watch app also, today's widget and all those kind of things. So I want to start really slowly. So in this particular video, you're going to learn how to display the vegetables in a list. And all of these vegetables that you see right now, they're coming from an API. So we're going to see that how we can display it in an API. I am using Xcode 13 beta with iOS 15 because I want to check out the async and await feature and the async image. You can see the async images are loading and some other features which we will see in this particular video. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I have created a brand new SwiftUI project in Xcode 13. And this process of building the app, it will be a little bit slow because you don't really build the app just by, copy pasting code or anything like that. So if you do want to move forward, you can definitely do that. If you want to look at all the different things that I'm doing, that is also perfectly fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a group and I will call it screens. I will also create some other groups like services, not inside. Yeah, that should be okay. Services. I will create a new group for models. So some of the things I will copy paste because, if I start typing all of this stuff again and again, then it will take literally forever. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create our web service that is going to allow us to fetch the data from a URL. But instead of putting the URL right in the service, I want to go ahead and create a group for utils, which is utility. So let's go ahead and add our first thing. And I'm going to go ahead and say SwiftUI constants dot, that's it, constants. So there's no right or wrong way to start your app. What I'm trying to do is to create these constant values so that I can go and, populate something. So let me go ahead and paste this part. We also have colors and we may or may not be using the colors, but that's perfectly fine for now. I'm going to go ahead and import SwiftUI also. So you can see that this is the link for getting the catalog, getting all the different vegetables. If we want to check it out, we can definitely go ahead and check this out. I'm going to open up the Chrome browser. And we should be able to check it out. There we go. So you can see it actually returns you all the different vegetables. There are a lot of vegetables, like 50 or 60 or 70 vegetables with all of the data that we have. All right. Okay, so this is good. This is done. Now we can go and jump into our services part where we will fetch all the vegetables. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. I will call it probably web service. You can call it anything you want. All right, inside the web service, we will create a class. I will call it web service, which will have a function called get all vegetables. We will pass in the URL. And since we're using async and await feature, I'm just going to go ahead and return a vegetable. Now, we don't really have anything called vegetable. So that is some model that we have to create. So at this point, I will realize, well, I don't have a model. So let's go ahead and create a model. So now I will go over here just so that the actual compiler, the build, can at least succeed. So what will the vegetable model look like? If you look at your Chrome browser and if you look at the stuff that we're returning. There's a lot of stuff that we're returning per vegetable. So right now we're just going to make sure that we have the vegetable ID, name, description, and thumbnail image, and that's pretty much it. Also note that the name of the vegetable or all the properties are starting with a capital letter, and I want it to be more of a camel case. So I need to provide coding keys, or I can go ahead and write my own decoding strategy, which maybe we will have to do it later, but right now I will simply provide coding keys and provide the mappings. So now we have the vegetable model created. I can jump back into my web service. At least it's not going to hopefully complain over here. And now we can check out the URL. So I'm going to go ahead and say unwrap the URL. If you are unable to unwrap the URL, then we can go ahead and throw an error, which is bad URL. Again, we don't really have anything called network error. So I will have to create that enum, and I'm just going to put it right before web service for now. Maybe eventually we'll change it later, but for now it's okay. Now I can use the URL session, and since I'm using iOS 15 and Xcode 13, I should be able to use shared.data, and you can see that I can simply pass in a URL and get the data. And there we go. Now, even though I created this project in Xcode 13, you somehow have to still set this to be using iOS 15. So I'm going to go over there and make sure that my project is set to iOS 15. Great. Okay, coming back to it. Since this is the function we will want to await, I cannot really await on it because my actual function is not marked with async. So I'm going to go ahead and mark with async. And since my function can actually also throw, I'm going to mark with throws. This is going to return a tuple. The first one will be data. The second one will be response. There we go. And now we can check for the response. So if the response, if we are trying to cast it to HTTP URL response, and the status code is equals to 200, then we will move forward. Else something bad happened, and we can simply go ahead and say invalid request or something bad. All right. Next thing we need to do is to decode. So JSON decoder dot decode. So we're getting the data. We want to decode it into an array of vegetables. So vegetable.self and data. This is going to give us, and we will use try optional, so that if the decoding actually fails, it will give us nil instead of blowing up. And now I can go ahead and return unwrap vegetables, or I can return empty array. Okay, so this will be our function. Get all vegetables. It will hopefully get all the vegetables from a URL that we will pass. Now, since our URL, and if I go and show it to you again, it's not really a secure URL, I need to make sure that all the different settings are okay. All right. So that should be in info.plist file. And since I'm using Xcode 13, I can go and select green garden, and I can select info, and I can add a particular key, NS transport security. And in NS transport security, we will add allow arbitrary loads, and we will set this value to be yes. So this is going to allow us to call those HTTP URLs. You can also do whitelisting and blacklisting and all that stuff, but right now we're just going to make it simple, and we're just going to say allow arbitrary loads. That's fine. The next thing that we want to do is to start creating our view models, because without the view models, we won't be able to pass the data to the view. So let's go to the view models, create a new file. Swift file is perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and say vegetable list view model. This is going to provide the data to the vegetable list screen, and this will serve as a container view model. class vegetable list view model. This will be an observable object. And it will have one function called getAll. And we will mark this with async because we have to call our web service over here. So I'm going to call web service dot getAll vegetables, pass in the URL. Well, we don't really have the URL, or do we? Well, we have constants, so we should be able to get the URL from the constants. There we go. Now, getAll vegetables is an async function, so we can await on it, and we can use await since we already specified this function is async. So this is great. It can also throw an exception, so we will use try. We cannot really use try like that. It has to be inside do or while or something like that. So we'll go ahead and wrap this with do. Or you can use try exclamation mark or try question mark. Not really good idea to use try exclamation mark because it will blow up if there's some problem with getAll vegetables in the web service. We will go ahead and catch it, and for catching it, we will simply go ahead and currently we'll just print it out. This is going to return you something, vegetables. And if we go ahead and do an option click, you can see that it's returning you not the view model, it's returning you an array of vegetables, which is perfectly fine. But in order to put something on the view, we need to give it to the view model. We don't really have a view model to identify or to provide some sort of a vegetable on the screen. Now, in this case, we can go ahead and create a view model. Vegetable view model. Now, this view model kind of represents each vegetable that will be displayed on the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and expose different properties over here. So let's go ahead and copy these properties. There we go. You can see the vegetable view model takes in a vegetable model and then returns different properties associated with the vegetable model. It is called file private because I don't want anyone to access the vegetable model from the view, but you can access it from in this particular file. So once we get the vegetables over here, which right there, these are a list of vegetable models, and we need to somehow convert them to vegetable view models, and eventually we want to put them into our own array called vegetables, which is of type vegetable view model, initialized at 0, the empty array. So how do we do it? Well, we will use vegetables.map, and we will simply pass in vegetable view model, which basically simply means that for every single vegetable, you are going to pass in the vegetable to a vegetable view model. And you can see the vegetable view model takes, vegetable view model takes in a vegetable. So it should be okay. And since it's a map function, it is going to return you a brand new array. And now I can assign that array to vegetables that I have created on line number 12. All right. Okay, so no errors. That's always good. Now this vegetables that we are assigning, which is declared right here, is marked with published, and it has to be assigned on the main thread. So in iOS 13, you can simply go ahead and say over here main actor, which means that every single thing, a property or a function inside the vegetable list view model class, it will be run on the main thread. So that's it. You don't have to do dispatch main queue and all that stuff. This will take care of all of the stuff. Great. Okay, so this looks good. I think the next step would be to jump onto the vegetable list screen. And I have a folder over here called screens, but we don't have anything in it. So let's go ahead and create a new file, a Swift file in it. I will call it vegetable list screen. All right, good. Let's go ahead and see what the screen actually looks like. Okay, looks fine. I will remove the content view because I'm not going to use it. And I will say move to trash. And I will make sure that vegetable list screen is my main screen. So I will go to the Green Garden app file and just say vegetable list screen is my main screen. We will change that eventually, but right now we're just saying vegetable list screen is the main screen. So when we run the app, the vegetable list screen is the one that you will see. So in the vegetable list screen, we want to display all the vegetables. Well, all the vegetables you can access using the vegetable list view model. So let's go ahead and create a state object for vegetable list view model. All right. Next, we can go ahead and use a VStack or anything like that. I mean, you can use anything you want. I will use a list. And you will find out that why I'm using the for each loop over here. So let's go ahead and say vegetable list screen or vegetables. And for ID, we will use the ID property, which we already have. We will get a vegetable in. Right now, our task is only to get the vegetables on the screen. So vegetable dot name. All right. Once we can see the vegetables on the screen, then our next step would be to add a navigation bar, add the tab bars, and all of those cool things. But right now, we're just trying to see that even if our web service actually works or not, is it even going to return us something? Okay, well, this is fine. The reason that it's not returning anything is that we didn't really call the function, which is vegetable list screen.getAllVegetables. So we can perform some async tasks. So this is a task modifier, and that has been added into Xcode 13. What this actually does is that it's already async closure. So this means that you can await on it something. And this is a great place to perform an initial call. So we want to perform an initial call to get all vegetables. You can see that. And now you can actually see all the vegetables being displayed, right? So this is pretty cool that it's actually working out pretty nicely. Okay, so we are getting the vegetables. That's fine. Well, let's go ahead and change a couple of different things. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are using a different style. So I'm just going to go ahead and say plain. Okay. We also don't really have any navigation bar. It would be nice that if we have a navigation bar. So I'm going to go ahead and add another extension, and I will call it extensions. Let's stop this. Okay. And in the extensions, I'm going to go ahead and add an extension for view. So let's call it view plus extensions. And this is just some extra work that I'm doing because I don't want to type in navigation view all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply create an extension on the view itself, which has a function called embedded navigation view. So this can be called on any particular view, and that view will be embedded in the navigation view. So you'll see in a moment that how we can actually use that. Let's go back to our vegetable list screen. And I want to wrap the VStack inside the navigation view. So I'm just going to say embed in navigation view. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, you won't see anything right now, but here we go. We got some, on the top we have some place. And we can go ahead and add a title now. I can call it Green Garden or whatever the name of the app is. There we go. So it looks like looking pretty good. We are missing images, so it would be a good idea to add images. So let's go ahead and make sure you do a command click on the text, and we will do embed in edge stack. So now we have everything in the edge stack. We can use the new async image view that will allow us to display an image. We can go ahead and say vegetable.thumbnail URL, which is actually an image. For the content that we want to display, we will get an image, and we will do resizing of the image. Resizable. Now, I have used this async image. It does not really cache the image, so there will be a lot of times we will see that it's not displaying the images. But for now, it's fine. We can change it or wait for Apple to fix this, and hopefully that will allow us to make it even better. For the placeholder, I'm just going to say progress view. So this means that when the images are not really loaded, it's just going to display progress view for a second. And now you can see all the images are being loaded. Well, you can see that sometimes it just loads it again and again, even though it's loaded. But at least it's looking a little bit better. All right. Okay. Now we have written all of this code over here, and it might be getting, too crowded. Would be a good idea to move this code into a separate file. So I can simply do a command click, and I can say extract subview. I can call this subview. You can see it's extracted in the same file. So let's go ahead and call this vegetable cell, and we will call this also vegetable cell. This is not really going to work right now because inside the vegetable cell, it depends on something called vegetable that we are not really passing. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are passing vegetable, which is of type vegetable view model. This means that now you have to pass the vegetable view model, which is, I will say, vegetable, and you're passing in the vegetable. If you want a little bit more fancy, I guess, actually that should be okay. I was thinking of removing this part, but then I have to write an extension. All right. Let's go ahead and rerun this again. I mean, the output will still be the same. You will display all the vegetables. Just by moving it into a vegetable cell, now you have a little bit more, refactored kind of a solution. All right. Apart from that, it didn't really change much. Okay. So what else do we want to do? I think we want to definitely make sure that the background color of these cells are a little bit different. So I'm going to go over here, and with the cells, which is this one, I'm going to go ahead and say background, and we'll use constants.colors.light gray row color. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit half filled because that's the content that it is fitting. There are many different ways of solving this. If we go back over here, we can say that the edge stack can have a little bit more padding, and it can have a width of infinity, or you can also add a spacer. I mean, it's kind of up to you. You can see a little bit of more padding if we add it. I'm just going to say padding should be like 5 or something. And I'm going to also say that the frame can have a max width of infinity. There we go. You can also have a spacer also. I mean, all of this can be done with a spacer also. All right. So I'm going to say over here, edge stack, that should be okay. And over here in the V stack, line mint, I'm going to say leading. So try with spacer also. Let's see where I'm messing it up now over here. Not sure why it's actually going in the center. Let me go ahead and see where I am messing it. Oh, I didn't actually add a spacer. That's why. I'm telling you to add a spacer, but I didn't add a spacer. There we go. All right. And we don't really need this alignment stuff because we added a space. Okay. Now, if you want to have rounded corners, you can also do a clip shape to get rounded corners. So after the background is applied, I can add a clip shape and I will get a little bit more rounded corners. Cool, right? So it's looking pretty good. Now, currently you can see that there is no tab bar at the bottom, and we want the tab bar to appear. So how can we add a tab bar? There are many different ways of adding a tab bar. What I would do is I would create another view that will serve as the main view or the main screen. So I will go add a new SwiftUI view, and I will call it main screen. And the whole point of this particular view is to simply add the tab view. And tab view can be added easily by simply saying tab view. And inside the tab view, what do you want to display? Well, I want to display the vegetable list screen. And the tab item, what will it actually look like? It will have a label, and a label will say home. And we can use a system image. and we will use the image of house. I mean, you can use anything you want. All right. And let's try to add another one. I'm just going to say second page or something, which we don't have, by the way. Dot tab item label, and I would say my garden with the system image of a leaf. So there we go. We got two of these now. All right. If you want to change the accent color, you can definitely do that. Let's see where this tab view finishes. We can simply go ahead and say accent color, and I would use teal. And there we go. It looks much nicer. Another thing I want to do is to change the top color. But let's go ahead and first make sure that our main screen is now the actual screen or the launch screen. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and run this over here. Okay, looks pretty good. We can scroll and all this stuff. So another thing I want to change is this top bar, the top navigation bar, and I want to color it a little bit differently. So for that, I'm going to go back to my actual page, which is my main screen, which is this one. All right. Now, there's no easy or a plain old way of doing that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create an init and call a function called setupTheme. Don't worry, this function doesn't really exist. And I will create a function. We will use the techniques of UI appearance to make sure that the navigation bar has some sort of a color. So you can use UI navigation bar.appearance. If you want the text attributes or the text of the navigation bar to be white, we will add a little bit more code to make sure it's white. All right. And now let's go back and try to run it again. Sometime you may have to build it for the changes to take effect. Let's see if it actually can pick up the changes. But yeah, sometime you have to actually build it. Oh, here we go. It picked up the changes. Now, one of the things that I was not able to do is when you're using a tab view, I want this top part to have like ignoring edges, meaning this whole green color should cover this top part. When you're using tab view, maybe there's a bug that it doesn't, even if you put edges ignore and all that stuff, it just doesn't cover this top part. So that is one of the things. If you find out, let me know and I will update the video or do a pull request on a GitHub repository, and we can figure it out, or we can apply those changes. And here we go. So we have created at least the front part of the page, or at least the page that is the home page. Now let's see what else is there. Let me actually double check some stuff. But it's looking pretty good. Now, one of the things I really want to add is some sort of an icon right over there on the top. All right. So how do we add that particular icon? So if I go to the main screen, on the main screen, so I'm already inside the main screen, and we will go ahead and say over here, .embed in navigation view. Now we have two bars. So we will go back to the vegetable list screen and we will remove that from there, because main screen is now your kind of like your home screen now. And I'm going to go ahead and add a navigation title. You can call it anything you want. I'm just going to call it Green Garden. We got that. And to add an image, we can use the toolbar. So let's go ahead and add a toolbar for an image. And you can see the small image. You can adjust the size of the image if you want to by adjusting the size of the font, but that looks pretty good. Another thing, if you can notice, there are these lines. You see these lines, the separator lines? And these are very, very hard to remove if you are using iOS 14 or below, But in this case, since we are using iOS 15, we should be able to handle it. So let's go to the vegetable list screen. In the vegetable list screen, I'm going to go ahead and try to say over here, list row separator, and we will go ahead and say hidden. Let's see if we run, does it display anything or not? And well, it's still displaying the lines, which is super. Oh, maybe I put it in the wrong place. All right, here we go. This will be part of the for each probably. Let's put it with the for each. Okay, here we go. It's gone, right? It looks really nice now. There's no more separator. All right, so now we can go back into our main screen and actually run our app. Here we go. So we are already done with kind of like our first page. It looks really, really nice. You can see the page. It looks very cool. The My Garden page is not really yet available. And My Garden will be those vegetables that you have added in your garden. So we have to do something so that it persists in core data. All right. The next video, we will see that how you can create a vegetable detail screen. So we should be able to select carrot or green beans or hot pepper, and we can go to a vegetable detail screen, which will show us all the different details about the vegetable. So we're going to do that later. As I said earlier, we are building or trying to build at least a complete application. So this process will be a little bit slow, and make sure that you download the GitHub source code. You can check out in the YouTube description. There will be a GitHub source code also. All right. Hey everyone, if you like this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out and become a patron. By becoming a patron, you will get all of these videos and you will get behind the scene articles, discount coupons, and much, much more. But the best thing you can do is to support my channel, and I will keep producing these high quality videos. As you can imagine, these videos take forever to create. I mean, there's a lot of research, weeks and weeks and weeks, and then days of editing to create these videos. So I really would hope that you appreciate all the hard work, and please become a patron. You can go and check out the link of patron right there in the YouTube description. You will also find links to my Udemy videos. Check those one out also. And thank you so much, and we will see you later.